All right, and welcome to Hat Trick Sports Talk. I am joined as always by Brandon. How are you doing tonight, man?
Pretty good.
Good to hear. It was another really fun and really interesting Sunday in the NFL. We'll also cover some NBA as the trades are about to start in the NBA finally back again with some offseason in the NBA. We'll get to that and as well. And Dustin Johnson winning the Masters as well. We're going to do something a little different tonight. We're going to go through the playoff picture, talk about some of these teams, potentially look at some of their schedules. And give our impressions to how these playoffs look. Looking at this, where do you want to go first?
Let's start at the bottom and work our way up
Okay.
because I actually think so. Here's the thing. Let's talk about this. So I'm talking. Let's talk. Let's look at the bottom of the teams that are in right now,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll come back around to the bottom on the bubble teams.
Yeah.
So I think actually both teams that are in the seventh seed right now in both the AFC and the NFC, the Ravens and the Seahawks, will not be in the seventh seed by the time the playoffs comes around.
You think they'll be up?
I believe they will move. They will both be in the playoffs, and I believe they will be somewhere between the 5 and the 2 seed.
Mm-hmm.
I
So,
do not believe the Seattle Seahawks will win the NFC West. I just don't see it happening.
no, I don't either.
I now believe that the Arizona Cardinals will win the NFC West.
Yeah, I
And
think
that
that's
is a
fair.
big change for me because I have not believed they were a serious team until today when I saw them walk off against the Buffalo Bills. And that is the best performance I've seen from
Kyler?
Murray.
Really?
I
That's the
that
best
is that
performance?
is and the reason is this, right? I've told you before that I need to see I've told you before that for me to think of quarterback as for real and legit, I need to see them win it in a situation that matters. And right there, he could have easily just sat down and be like, oh fuck, we lost, whatever. Nah. 13 seconds, went down the field, threw a Hail Mary, won the game.
It was also just a crazy play
Right.
and one of the
And to
best
be
plays I think
honest,
we've ever seen.
Russell's had plays like that where he's just thrown it up and won the game off of some nonsense. To be fair, that was sort of what this play was. But, that's fair. I believe that they're going to win the NFC West. I do believe the Seahawks will take the game at home against the Cardinals.
Yeah, it's Thursday night, so we're a
I
few days away from
still
that.
believe the Cardinals play a little bit of an erratic style for my liking. Like I just think they're still a little bit too not all together there to win it this year. But in the future, I could see them definitely winning a Super Bowl.
So Arizona's a weird case study for me now. I've always been big on Arizona. They were kind of my team that I'm kind of riding and dying on for the show, if that makes sense. Like a team
Yeah,
that I'm riding or dying with for the show. That was kind of my pick this year. It really is a roller coaster.
yeah,
Um, it just, I mean, this offense for me, um, at this point just doesn't. I feel like they need to trust Kyler more, even though they are trusting Kyler a lot. I think they need to kind of get a bit more away from the running game. I just don't really know what to make of it. I think it's just kind of up and down. Like it is a roller coaster even during the game. Like the first 3 quarters, you're like, oh boy, this isn't it. In the fourth quarter, it's good. Like I don't know. There's not many complete games, and that's why I always look at that Seahawks game on Sunday night as sort of that kind of complete game. They just don't really have it. And defensively, we know they're not good at all. So with Arizona, I'm there. I think they win the division, but I don't know how competitive they'll be
yeah.
in the playoffs.
And so for me, I want to go back to the Ravens, and it's funny because I don't know about you, but where has the Ravens of yesteryear
Yeah,
gone?
last regular season.
Literally, where have the Ravens of yesteryear gone?
It's
I mean, oh my god, this team just got beat by the lowly Patriots of this year.
so there's a couple of interesting pieces with this game. One for me was the weather. The weather dictated the
Yeah.
entire game. Like,
That was kind of ridiculous at the end. Just literally sheets of rain where you had a hard time seeing what was happening on TV.
yo, it was so hilarious. The final 40 seconds, right when the Ravens started their final drive, the wind picked up, the
Yeah.
rain picked up. You literally heard the rain through their mics, Alan Chris's
Yeah.
mics, and then of course the cameras. It was so funny where it's like the weather gods kind of were like, all right, we're just gonna throw all of it out in the final 30 seconds. And you knew the Ravens weren't gonna do anything. Besides the weather, which I think is something that we should get to at the end, sort of how the weather is going to change a lot of these games for a lot of these teams moving down the stretch, of course, in November and December and January. We're in November now, so December and January. But I think the main thing with this Ravens offense is regardless of the weather, it is not a good offense.
No.
It's just not good. They need to go back to getting Lamar to run the ball, or else this team is not going to be competitive in the playoffs.
Which is a problem for them because teams know that's what he's going to try and do. And they're going to just set up a spy and just,
Teams are going to figure it out. But the major problem is, again, we talked about this all year. They've tried to transition him, and it's made the team look 1,000 times worse. And tonight it showed.
True.
It was brutal.
Now, can we move on to probably my favorite team right now?
Well, before we do that, I want to finish up the NFC West and talk about the Rams. I don't know what to make of the Rams still.
I think the Rams are not a legitimate team.
I can't figure them out.
I
don't know what they are.
And I'll say it again. They lose this game if the Seahawks don't turn the ball over 3 times. They should have lost this game.
I agree. Like, the Seahawks offense is Seahawks offense, because of how bad the defense has been, and obviously we've done the rounds on that. It kind of I feel like they're the opposite of the Bears, where the offense is so bad that the defense has to do stuff. Where the defense are so bad that the defense is so bad that the offense cannot keep up every week.
I would make the argument that the Seahawks right now should be 8-3.
There's a fair argument there.
We should have won the
Arizona
game,
that.
and we should have won the Rams game today.
That defense, you knew, literally right from the first Rams drive, you were like, oh, it's gonna be a long day.
Russell needs to get his head right, but that's a whole nother conversation for Friday. Because I'm sure it'll either be a very happy conversation after Thursday night, or it'll be me going, I'm over this. The season is moot. But the Rams, I see them as maybe they could be either a 7 or they could be a 2. I
really believe that 3 teams in the NFC West are going to make the playoffs.
Oh, I truly believe. I think the Rams, Seahawks, and
Cardinals.
49ers, sorry, you're not even in the conversation.
No.
But for me, you look at teams like the Buccaneers and the Eagles. I mean,
the Bucks. We're going to the Bucks and the Eagles.
Well, do we want to move over to actually never? No, let's talk about this after we talk about my favorite team right now in the Dolphins.
Miami Dolphins. Go ahead.
I love watching this team play.
It's so fun.
It
is so fun.
This defense is like a secret assassination force that's been put together under everybody's nose. It's like, hey, by the way, here's this great defense that everybody was like, whatever, they're gonna be okay. Nah, this defense is good. It is really good.
It is unbelievably good. It is very good.
The fact that this team has 3 first-round picks.
Oh my God, they're going to have a top 10 pick. They're going to have a top 10 pick from the Texans.
It's absurd. This is a team that's going to get good really fast, even better than they are now.
And they're going to get they're going to be next year in a much different conversation than they are now.
And I honestly believe this is the team that we're going to be spending our time come draft night and in the weeks leading up to draft night saying, who are they going to take that will be the spark that will make their team even better? Do they go defense and add another big player to their defense? Or
do they get a receiver?
Right, exactly. Do they give Tua someone to work with? Because honestly, I think they should get a receiver because Tua needs pieces. And I'm starting, don't freak out, but I'm starting to believe that Tua might actually be able to play in the NFL.
Tua's the real deal. We saw
his first game,
regardless of the Rams game. Let's throw that towel and throw that game out. We knew that game wasn't going to count, but the last 2 weeks, my God, he's running that offense.
And like who he's reminding me of? Russell Wilson. Because
Somewhat.
Russell had a very good defense to back him up and was able to, and based upon that, he was able to play his game. Like, I believe if Russell had an amazing defense right now, oh my God, nobody would be able to he'd be destroying fools.
Here's an interesting part about Miami, too. We saw Samuel Ahmed.
UW represent.
UW represent. Also, let's keep this in mind that no matter what running back plays for them, they just ball out.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of ridiculous. It's Ahmed or it's dang it,
Myles Gaskin.
Or it's Gaskin. There we go. Jeez, he's on my fantasy team. I forgot his name. But no, I mean, whether it's one or that should be their 1-2 punch moving forward.
Yeah.
But I mean, man, that running game helps out Tua tremendously, and he also looks really mobile. There were moments in this game where you sat there going like, okay, he can actually run and like move around in the pocket. And obviously, we worried about that with his injury, but. Yeah, this Dolphins team is on the up and up much faster than we thought it would be.
I actually think the Dolphins have a chance of possibly winning their division. I think the Bills will probably end up taking it.
I like the Bills more than I like the Dolphins.
See, you say that, but I see problems with the Bills that I don't see with the Dolphins. The Bills... We'll talk about that when we get higher up in the rankings.
Yeah.
So, do you want to do Buccaneers or Raiders?
Let's do Buccaneers and the Eagles.
Okay,
let's start with the Bucs.
Are frauds to me. They are not. How do I put this?
Can I put it for you?
Sure, go ahead.
This game today, we were watching the game. We're in the chat. And we all kind of said similar things about this offense. This game, the score, the final result didn't dictate the game.
True.
You looked at the final result and went, "Oh, the Bucs balled out." Yeah, AB had a good game. Evans had a good game. Godwin had a good game. But you watched that game. We had two separate issues. So. Shane spoke about how Brady and you spoke on this as well, Brandon, about how Brady just doesn't look in sync at all with this offense, and he looks a little bit old. For me, I had more issues with the receivers dropping passes, but I still thought at times Brady was inaccurate. I think you're right in that it's kind of surprising how this game, both games against the Panthers, I believe, because they played earlier in the year, where that was kind of their best performance, and that's scary. That their best performances are against the Panthers.
Yeah. And that they can't win in the spotlight when the spotlight is on them.
Yeah. Why do you say they're like complete frauds? Do you worry about their defense at all, or is this completely offense based?
I think they're 7-3, right?
Yeah.
You go back and look at their games that they've won. They've won against bad teams. And they've also lost against bad teams. I mean, that Bears game.
What was that? That seems like an anomaly now, but it's just like
blown out 35 to 3.
Yeah, to the Saints.
They've lost to the Saints twice. Like, no way. I'm sorry. Like,
I'm starting to feel you there.
It's not going to happen.
You know what I want to say? I want to say that this game showed me something because all three of them balled out. All three of the receivers balled out. But I can't say that because it's the Panthers. And we're in week 10. I'm not at a point where I can say, oh, it's going to get better. We cannot say that anymore.
Yeah.
We can't. It's too late.
And then the Eagles.
this division is
I don't want to talk about the NFC East.
the
Can
NFC.
Can we just pass it, please? Can we just not? Because they don't really deserve it. They don't
They don't deserve time.
Don't deserve time at this table. Like, they are bad.
They deserve a home playoff
B.
game.
No, they don't.
No, they don't.
They deserve to have to go on the road, even if they lose, even if they win the division.
So I have the same problem. Well, I mean, the Bucks. Okay, I'm not going to put the Bucks in this conversation, nor should I. They're in much different spots. The Eagles and the Washington football team, I have the same problem with. I hope you can agree with me, particularly with the Eagles. Stop going for 2. Stop going for 4th downs. Oh my God. Washington, Philly. Stop it. Stop it right now. Are you kidding me? You could make a legitimate argument that Washington and Philly have lost all these games because they have this stupid propensity to go for 2 and to go for 4th downs when it's literally not needed.
It's like they don't have any trust in their field goal kickers.
It does feel that way.
Whereas the Giants are over here kicking field goals left and right because they got Josh Lambo.
It's Graham Gano. But
Graham Gano. And it's true. Stop it. They do it too much.
Legit, honestly, if they just kick Washington, if they kick some field goals, if they punted some balls, they probably would have won because Alex Smith had a beastly day and he deserves to start the rest of the season.
There have legitimately been games this year that they have lost because they went for 2.
And I think more specifically with the Eagles, it's more pronounced because we expect more from the Eagles.
Yeah.
And yet they just keep on doing it. And I'm going, if you guys just kick field goals, if you guys just punt, we're not in this position. You probably win 2 or 3 more games.
Yeah.
We're literally not in this spot. It's so ridiculous.
So I've got to be honest with the AFC. The Raiders and the Colts are kind of in my I don't really care spot. They're in my meh spots, which is they're good, but they're boring.
They're not interesting.
They're not interesting to watch. They get it done. The Colts have a good defense, but that's really it.
Phillip Rivers, do you still have that same problem that I have where he just can't really stretch the field?
Yes.
And I think that limits the Colts tremendously.
Yeah. So I think we can move up above 4 and look at the top 3. Which, I'm going to be honest here, I don't see much changing in this top 3 because, well, actually, that's not true.
Well, hang on. I'm worried about one team.
The Saints could fall to 3 or lower.
Can the Saints win, let's say, the next 2 games if Jameis Winston starts?
Let
me pull up their schedule. If Jameis Winston has to start, we don't have any reports.
They're lucky. They're playing the Falcons and the Broncos.
Okay, so they'll probably win both of them. Fine.
But if he has to, so they play Broncos. So they play Falcons, Broncos, Falcons, Eagles.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
That's pretty easy for them.
So if Jameis has to come in, they'll be fine.
So I think the Cardinals. I think they'll be at the 3rd. I think
at this point
they'll lose a couple more, I believe. Packers. I don't see the Packers getting the number 1 though.
I think this game was
we lost to the Jaguars.
Wait, did the Packers won, didn't they?
Yeah, they won, but they were really close to losing.
I mean, what was that game?
What this game was is a sign that Gardner Minshew better be watching his little cougar butt. Because
Luton, let's be honest about the Jags and how they're developing 6th-round quarterbacks.
Luton's out here being like, "Hello."
Luton's a real deal, man.
I would like your starting job, thanks.
Luton's a real deal. That boy has such a good arm.
Yeah.
I love that man's arm. That's an NFL arm right there. But for the Packers, it's like, again, it's like almost putting too much pressure on the offense to make plays, and it showed today.
And
Too much pressure on Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, moving over to the AFC, the Steelers. I'm sorry, Steelers. You shouldn't be 9-0.
They're the best team in the NFL by a mile.
No.
You don't believe that?
No. Did you watch the same game I watched today?
What? Just because James Conner got you 4 points?
No, I'm not. It's not just James Conner. This team,
they're so good at every level.
I don't know. There's something about the Steelers that just, it feels like they just like half-ass things, and then they realize, oh wait, we need to get it going. When they get it going, they win. I don't know.
In what way? What was the first?
I can't. I mean, to be honest, the first quarter it looked like they were trying to keep the Bengals in the game. I don't know, man. I don't know. I can't put my finger on what it is, but
we got Ravens Steelers on Thanksgiving. That may change a bit of our mind.
I think the Chiefs and the Bills will stay in their positions they're in right now. So I think overall, the most change will happen in the NFC.
So here's just to finish up on the Steelers. They are the best team in the NFL by a mile, and there's no question in my mind about it at this point. They won this game by just throwing the ball everywhere. And they can win games by running the ball with James Conner. And they can win games because their defense just can get literally a sack a game for 2 straight seasons. The Chiefs, yeah, you can point to them and say, yeah, they're close just because of their offense, and their defense, I guess you can say, is up and down. But right now, I think the Steelers represent the AFC and actually win the Super Bowl. They're going to win the Super Bowl. I have no clue in the NFC who they'll play, but the Steelers are going to make the Super Bowl. I firmly believe that right now. The Chiefs could do something, and I could be wrong, but I don't see any other team in the AFC besides the Chiefs that can compete with the Steelers. It's the Steelers, the Chiefs, and everyone else. My bold prediction is that the Steelers make the Super Bowl. That's it. That's where I have it. The NFC, I have no clue who makes it. It's just an absolute mismatch every week. Steelers have a clear hold on the AFC at this point. All right, let's go to some of these on the bubble teams. The Titans are on the bubble. Your thoughts on the Titans after that Colts game on Thursday night?
I'm over them.
You're done.
I'm done. I've been kind of over them since they played the Steelers. They aren't a complete package.
I felt in that game on Thursday that they were so over-reliant on Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
It's this sense of over-reliance. Like, trust Ryan Tannehill to make more throws. Trust him to throw the ball around. Trust him to throw the ball around to guys like A.J. Brown. Or, I mean, A.J. Brown's just an example. But there are so many talented receivers on that team. Just trust them to throw the ball a little bit more, even in a matchup against the Colts that, yeah, their defense is amazing and it showed, but you can't just be so focused on Derrick Henry to win games. It just won't work every week. We see this with the Vikings. It just doesn't work every week. It just doesn't, and it didn't work on Thursday night. Browns?
They've lost me after today. They should have beat you
after today.
They should have beat Houston by a lot more.
Well, I thought the wind had a lot to do with that game. It felt like it was a real weather game too. Like that one to me, I was like, this weather. But I don't know what to make of this offense. Like, we know how good it is, but I don't know. Baker and Jarvis, that connection just doesn't really seem to be there at this point, and it really should be there if they're going to be competitive in the playoffs, and it just isn't right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I've looked through all these on the bubble teams. None of these teams to me are gonna make it in. I don't see any of them.
Mm.
I mean, ironically, the Cowboys somehow are still in the running just because of them being in
The
the
Cowboys,
NFC.
Washington, yeah.
Yeah, just because they're in the worst division. But like Niners, they're not gonna make it in. Panthers, they're not.
Vikings?
Vikings, no.
No.
I mean, Lions, as much as I would love for them to, no. It Bears, no. So
Patriots? What's your feeling on them after tonight?
no. I think the problem is the Dolphins are gonna hold them off. I think.
Mm-hmm. But in terms of how do your thoughts change on the Patriots? Like, do
Oh
you
yeah,
think their
I
game?
think they're a slightly better team than I thought they were this year, but
What changed for you in this game in particular?
their ability to their defense looked better,
Mm-hmm.
and their running the ball looked better.
I think they need to stick with this running the
Yeah.
ball game script if they're going to win games moving forward. And Jacoby Myers is their number one receiver for Cam Newton. But, this running game, Burkhead, Harris, White out of the backfield, it has to, this offense, unfortunately, kind of has to go a little more vanilla with Cam Newton, which is not what I wanted to see for this team. And I think you're right in saying that I think for me, that doesn't put them in the playoffs. But for me, it's all about the running game. Just stick with this running game and you'll win games. But other than that, yeah, I think you're right. I think the Dolphins are better. Going through a couple of these teams as well, what do you think is the downfall of the Detroit Lions? I mean, we were pretty hype on them last year. What went wrong here?
Their coach.
You think it's time to move on from Patricia? Because
Yeah,
I'm there too.
I've said that for a while. Like I didn't think it was a good hire to begin with. I mean, think about the fact that the guy that was their coach before they hired Patricia had a winning record that year.
Was it Caldwell or was it the guy after Caldwell? I literally don't remember. Either way. I think Patricia's out of there. I look, the last 2 seasons we've been hype on them just because I thought that this Patriot way would work. It clearly hasn't worked.
Yeah, it was Jim Caldwell.
It was Caldwell. I didn't like Caldwell. I thought he limited Stafford a lot. But you could say that for Patricia as well.
His record was 36-28.
Jeez. Wow. Really? Caldwell?
Yes.
Dang. Wow.
They went 9-7 through 2016 and 2017. They went 9-7, and then the year after he got fired, they dropped. Detroit dropped down.
That's crazy.
Detroit,
I never liked Caldwell.
In his time, Detroit went 11-5, 7-9, 9-7, 9-7.
Yeah, 9-7 isn't good enough for this Detroit team. I never liked Caldwell. I didn't even like the hire originally.
I think the big problem was the fact that yes, they made it to the playoffs twice, but both times they lost in the wild card game.
Yeah.
They lost to the Cowboys and they lost to the Seahawks.
Yeah. With Minnesota, I mean, it all really depends on Kirk Cousins, and I don't even think they really trust him. I think we thought this for a long time.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, some young Greek quarterbacks here with the Bengals and the Chargers. Kind of a bad game for our main man Herbert, but yeah, you expect that for a rookie. Every once in a while, he'll bounce back. But yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much it with all of these. Also with the Lions, can we give props to DeAndre Swift? They finally got him a starting job, and he balled out today. Any other highlights for you from this Sunday?
Not really.
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting day overall. Actually, before you finish up, I did want to talk about the Raiders. We'll get an interesting look at them on Sunday night next week against the Chiefs. overall, I feel like this Raiders offense is just like, I think like they kind of did a running game script, which is good. Like this offense for me feels pretty set in stone. Like we know what they're doing offensively, we know what they're doing with Derek Carr, but defensively, I think it really holds them back. Um, it's interesting how they're scripting the games now. It's something that we're gonna have to keep in mind as the weather moves along. How this Raiders team in some of these colder weather games that they may have down the road, how it's gonna affect sort of how they play. Let's talk about the weather before we get to some NBA stuff. The weather kind of did make a massive impact on a few of these games. In your opinion, now that we're sort of closer to Thanksgiving, we're a couple weeks away, and as we get towards the playoffs, how do you think the weather is going to change how these teams play every week?
I think the teams that run the ball well are going to end up dominating.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think that's one of the reasons why the Seahawks end up always having like a kind of a going on a winning streak at the end of the year. Because like they always seem to be able to run the ball well. And so they're able to like just stop the run and run the ball.
Yeah.
Which is ironic because I think that we might actually see the Seahawks pick up a couple games at the end of this year that they shouldn't win just because they have good run defense still, and it'll force the other team in Seattle when it's raining to run the ball.
I mean, there are so many. Once we get to this point in the year, because of weather, these game scripts just change. I keep going back to these game script things, but like you look at cities like Denver, you look at Buffalo, you look at let's see, you look at New England today. Like it does change the dynamic of the game. You come in expecting one thing, and the weather sort of changes the whole thing. Cleveland has obviously had a couple of those games this year. Weather is going to be a massive factor, and the running game is going to be more important because the passing game is going to be so limited. But you're going to have teams like Denver, as they always seem to do every year, win, particularly in the division. Particularly in this division, because of some of these weather games that Denver is going to have down the road with the altitude and all that. So that's something to keep on, or to keep a look at as we finish up the season. So let's get to the NBA. We have a couple of news and notes coming out of Houston and out of LA with the Lakers. Let's first start with Houston. It has been a colossal mess this week in Houston. It seems like it was all kind of going downhill after Chris Paul's hamstring. Russell Westbrook at this point seems really frustrated and has requested a trade at this time. And it also looks like Harden is not happy with his direction. Now, Harden specifically, let's start with him. He's looking at joining Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in Brooklyn. Your thoughts on that?
I don't love it because I'm not a huge fan of super teams.
Mm-hmm.
I think super teams, as fun as they are, I think they kind of ruin the basis of basketball, which is like having a bunch of good players spread out amongst teams.
Like we saw this past season.
Right.
So.
And I think I would be a little surprised if the league approves of that happening.
But if
it's free agency, they don't really get a say. Do they?
So here's my question. Do you really think that, I mean, KD and James, we know they're going to work together, but if it is Kyrie included in that, does Kyrie and James Harden actually mesh together at all?
No.
Like they don't.
I was surprised that Harden and Westbrook worked,
as well as they did.
Well as they did, and like I'm shocked that they're breaking that up, or that they're trying to break that up. Like Westbrook saying he wanted to trade, and now Harden saying he wanted to trade. I mean, I kind of get it because like it's a pretty dysfunctional team.
It is. It's very dysfunctional at this point. With Harden, like I I don't like with Harden and with Westbrook. I really feel like they're just not built to play with other superstars.
Yeah.
It just feels that way. Like they worked well together. I mean, it was the same thing with Harden and Chris Paul. They worked together, but it doesn't equate to championships. It just doesn't.
Well, Westbrook isn't really a superstar in my opinion.
Why do you think he's not in that class anymore?
He's like, I have like two classes of superstar, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have like A tier superstars, which are like LeBron,
Steph, KD,
LeBron, Steph, KD, Kawhi,
Anthony Davis,
Anthony
probably.
Davis, DeMar DeRozan. Well,
No, no.
What's his
DeMar
name?
DeRozan. There's a few
The
more.
Raptors.
Siakam's on that list.
No.
Lowry's on that list.
Lowry, yes.
I guess from
I
what he
think
does for Toronto, but I wouldn't say a superstar.
Lowry is on the A tier list for being the guy he is in Toronto.
Yeah, I guess, and I can understand why you put him there as a Toronto fan.
Harden is in my A tier.
Yeah.
However, Harden drops down if he leaves Houston.
Yeah,
I don't think he. Here's the thing. Harden is a great shooter. Harden is a great passer. Harden is not a great leader.
No.
I think he's someone you use to build in a city. You don't go to somewhere and use as a final piece.
It doesn't. Here's the thing. Like we're keep kind of like, what is like we're just kind of chomping around the bit here, but it's the reality of how we felt about Houston for the last 3 seasons. It just doesn't. It never felt right at all.
Yeah.
And like we knew that Harden was like gonna dominate during the regular season, and in the playoffs he always just kind of flopped. Like even with Daryl Morey, and Daryl's gonna do a lot more things with Philly, I think, than he's ever done with Houston, just because in Houston he had to innovate so much. With Doc, I don't think there's as much innovation really gonna have to be going on considering the talent in Philly. But like they tried so many different things, and it was like they were like, we tried everything. I think the basic reality with Houston is we've tried everything. We're still dysfunctional. It's time to disband.
Yeah.
What that looks like for Harden, Brooklyn, I don't know how that's gonna work. Yeah, if it's 3 of them, cool. And with Kyrie and KD being healthy and at full strength, particularly KD, yeah, cool. It's probably gonna dominate the East in some respects, but there's something there with Harden, and I feel the same way with Westbrook, where they're not necessarily championship level pieces. They're better when they're by themselves with just surrounding talent around them. And moving on to that with Westbrook, that's very clearly what he wants. The fact that a team like Charlotte or the Knicks is on this guy's list shows that he kind of wants his own team. And I mean, he's the best when that's the case, but it seems like he's kind of conceding that he's not really a championship level player at this point. What are your thoughts on Westbrook potentially going to Charlotte or to the Knicks?
I actually think he should go to Charlotte, because that would satisfy his craving to be the guy.
Yeah, but do you think Charlotte wants to do that? Michael Jordan, Jordan Brand, cool. That's fun. But Charlotte's at a spot. Like, do you know what was my favorite underrated team to watch every day in the NBA last year?
What?
Charlotte. I love Charlotte last year.
I don't think I watched one single game of Charlotte last year.
I watched at least, well, I don't know. I watched a good portion. Maybe, I don't know, 5, like in terms, not necessarily full games, but I watched a good portion just as a whole. And of course, having Devontae Graham, my fantasy team, kind of made me focus on Charlotte a bit more as well. But in general, like Devontae Graham, you have Who else? You have Terry Rozier, so you have two guards there. I want to see that pairing grow. And yeah, you can probably get Westbrook for I don't know. Do you think if Charlotte if Houston goes to Charlotte, Charlotte's gonna be like, hey, we want a couple picks because we hate his salary? I mean, his salary sucks. Westbrook's salary.
Well, I think honestly, Houston might say we'll eat his salary just to get him off of our team.
Will eat his salary. That's
Yeah.
gonna hurt them long. That's gonna hurt them at least in the
Yeah,
short
but
term.
like if they're trying to get rid of him, they're trying to get rid of him. Think about it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess if they had the option to eat it, they might as well eat some
they're
of
gonna
it.
send him into Charlotte instead of New York because New York won't be able.
New York
I don't
has
know.
more tradable assets. Like I really think
Actually,
they could
I
trade
could
Julius
see.
Randle.
I could see them trying to trade it to try to trade him New York, and making the deal that like New York would eat the asset, would eat the trade, would eat his contract
Well, New York
just
wants
to
to
get
eat a contract right
just
now.
to get rid of him.
New York wants to eat a contract.
Which is why I think probably he'll end up going to New York more.
I just don't like him
Yeah.
going to Charlotte because I think Charlotte's at a nice rebuild process that bringing in Westbrook kind of negates that. Whereas the
Actually,
Knicks are like,
honestly, Westbrook would actually fit kind of well in New York, considering
yeah,
his ego is the size of this Empire State Building. And he would get a play, and that would create a great rivalry between the Knicks and the Nets. KD versus Westbrook.
and maybe
friends.
Harden.
Old friends turned enemies.
It'd be so
Battle
funny.
of New York.
It'd be so funny if they both get traded to New York teams. Harden gets traded to the
Bro,
Nets.
that'd be hilarious.
It'd be so funny.
Think of how much shit talking there would be. Oh my god.
I think
would
that
actually love that.
I think for New York, I'd rather see him go to New York. I think Charlotte should not even be close to interested in Westbrook because his salary is too large. He's really old. I think Charlotte needs to get younger, not older. I think Charlotte's in a spot where they just need to, again, as we said with Philly for the past bunch of years, trust the process, trust what they're doing, because they really are doing the right things. I definitely encourage a lot of people to go watch some of those highlights of Charlotte last year because it was good. And there's building pieces there. As for the Knicks, they clearly want to eat a salary because I think that they feel like, man, we can't get a free agent. Let's just eat a salary and deal with it. That's like Chris Paul's always been in the rumor mill for them too.
True.
And then the Lakers have agreed in principle to a trade with the Oklahoma City Thunder, sending their first round pick, which I think is 28, and Danny Green for Dennis Schroeder of the Oklahoma City Thunder. So the Lakers get better.
I hate it. I don't like it. Fuck the Lakers.
You don't like it because the Lakers just got a better piece than
Not
Danny Green.
Fair. Like, this is such no. They should not. I don't know. It's just like, really?
They're getting Schroeder, he's like an amazing passer. He's an even better passer than Rondo. He actually fits much better than Rondo, I would think. And the main reason for this trade, obviously, is because Rondo is probably going to go to the Clippers at this point.
Which is kind of interesting.
So they need a point guard to sort of facilitate, and Schroeder is like the perfect option. Moving on the OKC side, it is very clear that they are done with this roster.
Yeah.
Like it's fire sale mode in Oklahoma City. Don't you agree?
Well, it's interesting that this is a team that's kind of gone fire sale mode twice now.
Yeah.
In the last, I don't know, 3 years?
2 years, because they did it last year with Westbrook. And
yeah.
They're going fire sale mode, I think, for a couple of reasons. One is because they realize that while this roster is good, it's not championship material. 2, they also have a ton of picks from the Clippers. So they can afford to go into some semblance of a rebuild, trading Chris Paul, maybe Milwaukee, potentially for a couple of picks.
No, I think Chris Paul will end up moseying on down to Phoenix and
You think Phoenix? We've heard
Yeah,
of that Phoenix rumor. How do you think Chris Paul will fit in Phoenix?
I think Chris Paul would actually fit pretty well. I think he'll be that veteran influence that I think Phoenix kind of could use. I think that's one thing that that team could use is like someone who has winning experience and can teach them how to win with class. Because they won a lot down the stretch, but they
The
were
bubble,
never
man.
really classy about it.
The
Like
bu-
they,
the the bubble. Sorry to interrupt, but the bubble changed Phoenix's outlook on their team.
yeah, they also came across to me as kind of a bunch of jerks.
Well, they're young kids, so I think you're right.
Right, and that's why I think they need a veteran who can teach them how to win with class and style, and
Yeah.
not LeBron James. I mean, what? No, just
Okay,
kidding.
stop it.
Um,
No, Monty Williams and Chris Paul with this group would
Yeah.
work perfectly. I think the bubble changed their aspirations. Like, you know what? Sure, the West is filled with a bunch of like demigods because the East is so trash.
yeah.
But we can be competitive there, and why not give it a shot? And I think Chris Paul, if we see that trade in the next few days, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Fine. Actually, I do want to ask you about your Raptors. You guys are in an interesting position. Fred VanVleet, at this point, I think he should go back there.
Yeah.
Although you and I have talked about that VanVleet going back there, at least for me, doesn't seem feasible because I think there's a team out there that's just going to give him a bunch of money that Toronto shouldn't match. But I've also said for a while that I think the problem with Toronto is that they're getting older, not younger. But let me first ask you, if they lose VanVleet, how does that change your outlook on this team moving forward in the next couple of years?
Um, I don't know. I think if they lose, I don't think they're about to lose VanVleet because,
I hope not. I don't think he should
well,
go anywhere.
here's why. Because I'm reading an article right now, literally, that's saying that the NBA rumors have linked him with the New York Knicks and Pistons.
Yeah.
And Sportsnet's Michael Grange says the Toronto Raptors are confident they will be able to match or exceed the contract VanVleet will receive from other teams, and that the Toronto Raptors have no problem matching that offer, which is worth up to $117.3 million over 4 years.
That's a massive offer for VanVleet.
But here's the thing. I think you don't look. You obviously have not looked close enough at the Raptors. They kind of need VanVleet to continue their
No, and I
success.
understand that. I understand that. But my problem is he is not, regardless of his role with the Raptors, he is not worth that kind of money.
There are
He's
so many
not.
players. Are we talking about the same NBA here? Are we talking about the same NBA where like literally teams pay lesser players than Fred VanVleet get more money?
Luol Deng in
So
2016
I don't
gets
want to
4
hear
years.
it about doesn't deserve X amount of money. Like,
Well, no, but here's why I'm saying this, right? Because historically, you look at guys, obviously VanVleet at this point of his career, because he's so young, is uncomparable to guys like Luol Deng, Tiffany Mozgov, things like that we saw in that huge cap spike in 2016. But my problem is, like, he's not going to produce at that max level of production, especially towards the tail end of the contract. It's just not worth it. And I've said this. I think that the Raptors need to think about getting younger, and maybe that starts with, unfortunately, not paying VanVleet that kind of money, and potentially trading guys like Lowry,
see,
like
but it's
Ibaka,
I just
because I feel
I
like
don't
it's not
feel
there.
like, but like tearing it down and starting again after you win one feels like such a waste.
But that team is so, like, that team was built to win that one. other than Siakam, who's clearly worth max money, I think we
Right.
can both agree that his progression, he's going to progress so much more next year, and he's continued to progress at a level where you can be comfortable paying him max money. But for the rest of that roster, particularly VanVleet, but even Lowry, Siakam.
I don't think they're gonna part. I think if they part, they're not gonna part with Lowry because
Yeah,
Lowry and Siakam are their core. I think they
right.
could get rid of VanVleet, and I believe that their GM has shown he has the ability to pick up guys under the noses of teams who end up being dominant. I am 100% aware that like it's very likely the Raptors will probably not be good for 2 or 3 years. But here's the thing: I believe the Raptors will find their way back to the playoffs forever for a long time.
With Masai Ujiri.
Yeah,
Mm.
they're gonna just have a history of winning, unlike the Raptors of old that people laughed at and
And
made fun of.
I'm not saying that they won't make the playoffs. I think with Siakam they will. I just think with some of their older talent potentially moving some of those pieces away. But here's something interesting. In we're getting close to the draft. I think the draft's like next week at this point, right? Wednesday. Jeez, wow, that's crazy. But they're on the ranking list for the Raptors are probably at the top of that list in terms of the guys that they'll get in the 20s or even undrafted guys like we saw last year, where they just find guys late in drafts. They're kind of at that top of that list, and we know how bad this draft is overall.
Yeah.
So there's a potential they can rebuild it with some young talent. They've already shown it a bit, but I don't know. I just personally, I feel like this team, in terms of title contention, regardless of how bad the East is, was kind of at that one-hit wonder point anyway. And I think if you talk to Masai Ujiri after that season, knowing that Kawhi left, I think that was kind of the point. Although I guess I didn't realize Siakam's rise. But again, I don't see the value in paying VanVleet max money when you're already gonna have to pay Siakam max money as well.
We
So you're
definitely
also
played a
putting yourself.
lot. We also definitely played a lot better this year than anybody would have expected.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But again, I feel like you're putting yourself in huge cap trouble down the road if you're gonna pay Siakam max money and VanVleet max money or close to, along with the older talent that you have. Regardless of how good you draft, you're going to have misses. And not with Siakam, like they're going to make the playoffs. The East is so bad, but moving forward, I think there needs to be some kind of rethinking there. Unfortunately.
Yep.
But yeah, that and then let's go to the Masters. Dustin Johnson, 20 under par. 20 under par in the Masters, literally a blowout performance. Tiger played okay, I guess. I mean, I don't know what to make of Tiger now. He's just kind of up and down, but he's always kind of the most intriguing piece of every major. But Dustin Johnson, 20 under par, just absolutely dominating for 4 rounds. What was your impression of watching his dominant performance?
I mean, it was boring. It was over so early.
It was over almost right from the opening bell. The course did look a little bit different though, right? With all of with the fact that it was in November, but it was still pretty playable, which is good. Yeah, Johnson's the guy to keep an eye on as we sort of finish up. Or I think we're pretty much done with the majors because I don't think we're doing the Open in Britain, but either way, that was just it was pretty much over right from the opening bell. And congrats to Justin Johnson. We'll see him back again as we get the other majors. But that is it for today. Thank you, Brandon. Good show as always. We'll be back on Friday to recap the Seahawks game and go through the rest of the NFL week, along with all the NBA draft and NBA trades that we're going to see over the next few days. It's going to be crazy.
Yep.
All right. We will see you all on Friday.